Hey guys, welcome back to Shristi Tech Academy. Communication between REST APIs or microservices can be synchronous or asynchronous. In case of synchronous communication, you can either use RestTemplate or Feign client. Already we have seen an example of how to use RestTemplate to communicate between two REST APIs. In this particular video, let us learn how to use Feign client to communicate between two REST APIs. It is the same process if you want to do communication between two microservices. Okay, let us first understand what is Feign client, the key features of Feign client, how to use it and when to use it. Then we will understand the workflow of how to do communication between REST APIs using Feign client. Then we will go in for the coding part. Now let us get started. What is Feign? Feign is a declarative HTTP client in the Spring Cloud ecosystem. If you want to do communication between two REST APIs or microservices without writing any boilerplate code using RestTemplate or WebClient, then Feign is the best choice. Feign is also called as a Java to HTTP client binder. It binds the Java interface to HTTP REST APIs declaratively. To understand this, let us first see the workflow, how communication happens between two microservices. Let me first explain that. For this application, let us take two REST APIs. One is Book Catalog API. The other one is Admin Dashboard API. Okay. Book Catalog API is the one which is going to communicate with the database to perform CRUD operation. So this has a controller, a service and a repository. The repository is responsible for connecting with the database. So this whole thing becomes our Book Catalog API. The controller has few REST endpoints. A request comes to the controller. With the help of the REST endpoints, we can perform CRUD operation with the database. As in, I can perform operations like adding a book to the database, updating a book, deleting a book, getting all books, get by ID and get by author. This is my Book Catalog API. Now, whenever I want to get the data from the front end, none of the front end applications can communicate to Book Catalog API directly. So, we are having Admin Dashboard API. This also has the controller. This also has the service layer. Of course, if you want to save the details of the admin, you will have repository. We are not touching that part. Now, when a request comes to admin dashboard for adding the book to the database or updating or retrieving all the books, then this admin dashboard API is responsible for communicating to Book Catalog API. If you are using RestTemplate, you should write the code within the service layer by calling the methods of RestTemplate to communicate with Book Catalog API. But now that we are going to use Feign client, it is enough that you will be creating one single interface which will behave like a Feign client. The interface should be annotated with @FeignClient, which takes the name and URL as parameter. The name has to be the name of your microservice. If you are working in a microservice environment together with Eureka as your service discovery, you don't have to use the URL attribute. It is enough you provide the name of the other microservice. But if you are doing communication between two REST APIs, it is mandatory that you need to provide the URL of the other service in which it is running. As in http://localhost:, in which port number your application is running, the complete URL you are supposed to provide. Okay. Now, in this interface, you will be adding few methods. All these methods will be annotated with the appropriate annotations of HTTP request, as in get mapping, post mapping, put mapping and so on. The REST endpoints will be same as that of the REST endpoints that you have given in the controller. As in, if I have given it as /books, Here also I am supposed to provide the same URL /books. All the methods are abstract methods only. You all know when you are using an interface, obviously they will be abstract methods. Then, how does the communication happen? Where is the implementation for this? When you are running this application, during the runtime, Spring Boot is responsible for creating the implementation class for this particular interface and communicate with the other REST API based on the URL that you have provided. That is why it is called as Java to HTTP client binder. Let me go back to the slide. Java to HTTP client binder. It binds Java interface to HTTP REST APIs declaratively. The implementation will be taken care during the runtime. Okay. Feign can integrate with Eureka for service discovery when you are working in a microservice based application. And Spring Cloud Load Balancer if you want a load balanced HTTP client. We will understand about this in the upcoming slide in detail. What are the key features of Feign client? Feign is a declarative HTTP client. Here you need to define an interface that is annotated with @Feign client. Just provide the name of the REST API with which you want to communicate. Within this interface, add methods that are annotated with either get mapping or post mapping or put mapping or delete mapping. Within that, pass the URL of the REST endpoint of the REST API with which you want to communicate. In our case, it is book catalog API. So we need to pass the URL or the REST endpoint of book catalog API. What about the implementation? We don't have to provide the implementation. During the runtime, Spring Boot will provide the implementation and identify a way to communicate with the other REST API. Okay. Next is service discovery integration. If you are working in a microservice based application, you will be using Eureka as your service discovery. In this case, it is enough you provide the name of the other microservice. Feign can automatically identify the microservice with the help of Spring Cloud Load Balancer because all the microservices register themselves to Eureka Service Registry. Okay. The third point is load balancing. Whenever you want to communicate with a microservice, if multiple instances of the same service is up and running, we need to pick and choose a particular microservice instance. So for that, we need a load balanced HTTP client. For this, we take the support of Spring Cloud Load Balancer. It helps to pick and choose a particular microservice instance based on certain parameters. We are not going to touch upon that. So please understand, if you are working in a microservice application, all the microservices should register themselves to Eureka Service Registry. When one microservice wants to communicate with other microservice using Feign client, it is enough that you provide the name of the microservice. Feign, together with the support of Spring Cloud Load Balancer, will pick and choose the appropriate service. If multiple instances of the same service is running, here also Spring Cloud Load Balancer provides a load balanced HTTP client. Okay. Next, how Feign works internally. Now that we have created only the interface, the implementation of this interface will be created during the runtime by OpenFeign. See here. When an API request is made, Feign builds the REST request, sends it to the target service. Whenever the response is coming back, it deserializes the response from the return type. Feign converts the Java methods into REST API calls. Whatever methods you have created will be converted into REST API calls. This is how Feign works. Let me repeat it. How Feign works internally. When you are running this application, Feign will create the proxy implementation of that particular microservice. Then it builds the REST request, sends it to the target microservice or target REST API. In our case, it will send the request to book catalog API. When the response is coming back, it will deserialize the response based on the return type that is needed. And then it will send it back to its own controller. So, essentially Feign converts the Java method calls into REST API calls. When to use Feign client? When microservices need to call each other REST APIs frequently. When you are working in a microservice environment, when you want to communicate between two microservices as in two REST APIs frequently, use Feign client. When you want to avoid boilerplate code and want to have a cleaner code, then instead of using RestTemplate, you can use Feign client. Use OpenFeign if you are working with Spring Cloud stack, as in you are using Eureka, Config Server, Gateway API. Okay. Now let us again quickly see the workflow and then go back to the coding part. So we need two services. One is Book Catalog API, which already I have created. This application is up and running in port number 8081 and it can perform CRUD operation with the database. My table is created. I am already having data in the database. Guys, if you want to have a look on how to do communication between two microservices using RestTemplate, watch my video. I will give the link above. Once you have completed that, then you come to this video so that it is much more easier. The second application has to run in port number 8082 and this is going to make an API call using Feign client. Okay. Now let me go to Spring Tool Suite. This is my book catalog REST API. The domain model over here is book. I also have book DTO, which is responsible for getting the data from the client and send it to the service layer. We use model mapper to do the conversion, that is converting book DTO into book entity. Let me go to book controller. So these are the methods that I am having. Add book, update book, delete book, get all, get by ID, get by author. Okay. And also this is the repository layer. In the repository I have one single derived query. For the other REST endpoints I am using the inbuilt methods save, find by ID, find all, delete by ID. Okay. Now this is my book service IMPL. You can see the methods also save, delete by ID, then find all, find by ID, find by author. This is the derived query. This is my book catalog REST API. Now we need to create another API which is admin dashboard API, which is responsible for communicating with this particular microservice or REST API. So let me create it. File, new Spring Starter project, Spring admin dashboard hyphen Feign client. The Git repository of this particular application is also given in the description. Type is Maven, packaging is jar, Java version is 21, language is Java, and let me give the group ID as com.admin panel, package also com.admin panel. Click next. We need to pick and choose the dependencies. I need Lombok, I need Spring Web. Together with that I also need Feign, OpenFeign. Click finish. We don't need any database because I am not going to perform any CRUD operation with the database. I am going to make an API call to the other service that is responsible for performing the CRUD operation. Okay. Now what are the classes we need? We need admin controller, we need a book class, then iBook service, book service IMPL. Let me first create the skeleton alone. Select your package, right click, new class. First is dot controllers. Let me give the class name as admin controller and this should be annotated with @REST_controller. Okay, next let me create the service layer. Right click, new interface. The package is service. I need admin service and then next is service implementation. New class, admin service implementation, admin service IMPL. Annotated with that service and make this class implement admin service. Okay. We also need the book class. So let me copy it from book catalog REST API. I'll copy it over here. I will rename the package to admin panel. Okay. Then here I don't need API errors and I have book DTO. These are the properties that we are going to send to book catalog API. and we are not using any entity. Let me remove this book and I will rename this book DTO to book. Okay. What next? We need to add methods in iAdmin service. So whatever operations that I am having in catalog service, I will have it over here because this REST API is going to communicate to book catalog service. Let me scroll down. I'll copy the methods. Okay, here in our case it is not book DTO, it should be book. So let me replace book DTO with book. Replace all. No need of throwing any exception. Okay. See, it's not necessary that you need to call all the methods of book catalog. Purposefully I am just showing you how actually communication between two microservices happen using Feign client. Okay, now we need to implement these methods in admin service IMPL. Go to the class, keep the cursor here, add unimplemented methods. Earlier when we were working with RestTemplate, we auto-wired RestTemplate and we called the methods of RestTemplate to make an API call. Let me show it to you. This was the class. From this service layer, communicate to the other REST API. For this, we are using the inbuilt class RestTemplate. We are auto-wiring it and we are calling the appropriate methods of RestTemplate. But in this application, we will be working with Feign client. Now let us see what are the steps that we need to do. The first step is go to the main class, annotate the main class with @enable Feign clients. If you want to use Feign client to create a proxy for the interface, provide the implementation and make an API call, this annotation is mandatory. Next, we need to create an interface which is responsible for communicating with the other microservice or the other REST API. Select your service package, right click, new interface. I will create a new package as Feign clients. I have to communicate with book catalog API. So let me give the interface name as book Feign client or book catalog Feign client. The name is big, so I am just giving it as book Feign client. Click finish. This is the interface. This interface should be annotated with @Feign client, within which you are supposed to provide two attributes. One is name, the other one is URL. If you are working within a microservice environment, it is enough that you provide the name of the other microservice with which you want to communicate. Identifying the name or resolving the service name will be taken care by Spring Cloud Load Balancer by checking in the service registry, that is Eureka service registry or console service registry. But now here we are having them as independent REST APIs. So it is mandatory that you need to provide the URL also. First let us fill the Feign client. Now let me open book catalog API. Open application.yml. This is my application name. Copy this. iBook Feign client. Pass the name. Next, it is mandatory that you need to provide the URL of the other service with which we want to communicate. So let me open book controller. Let me select the URL. The URL is localhost:8081/bookapi/v1. Meaning to say that I need to copy this part also. So Control C, come back within URL, add it. Okay. Now I am supposed to add methods. Whatever methods I am adding are going to communicate to these REST endpoints. Add book, update book, delete book, get all, get by ID and get by author. So you can have similar method names or different method names. Now let me have similar method names only. The methods that we are adding should be annotated with the appropriate mappings that are available in book controller. So what I will do is, I will go to book controller. Actually, I need post mapping of books and I need a method for that. So let me copy till this part. Come back and pass book. It's not book DTO, it is book. This is an abstract method. So you add URL mapping that is same as that of the service with which you want to communicate. whatever annotations you have added in book controller, that should be available in Feign client also. In this case, we have used request body. So add that. This means you are supposed to provide body part from your admin panel API so that it goes to the other microservice and gets saved in the database. Now the next method. I'll just copy this. Instead of book DTO, it has to be book. That's it. Import book. The third method is delete mapping. We need to add path variable also. It's not mandatory that you need to have the same method name. You can have your own method names also. Just to differentiate. As an instead of add book, I can have it as insert book. Update book, I can have update one book. Instead of delete book, I can have delete book by ID. Then next method, get all. This one I will keep it as its same method name. Then get by ID. Remember to add the appropriate annotations together with the parameter. End it with a semicolon. Then last one is for get by author. The return type is list of book. Okay. So let me explain it again. In case of Feign client, you just create an interface and annotate it with @Feign Pass the name of the REST API or the microservice with which you want to communicate. If it is between two independent REST APIs, it is mandatory that you need to provide the URL. If it is between two microservices, it is enough that you provide the name of the microservice. Within this interface, you are supposed to provide the method names. You can give any method name you want, but the URL should match the REST endpoints of the microservice or the REST API with which you want to communicate. In our case, we are communicating with catalog service, which is a REST API. So go to the controller, copy the methods, add it over here and add the appropriate mappings. The same mappings that you have given in the controller. The method name can be anything, but the parameter should match the parameters of your REST endpoint methods. The return type can be response entity, or you can have it as simple void and list, where you will get only the body part, not the status and header. If you want to get the complete data, you should have it as response entity. Okay. Now our Feign client is ready. The next step is go to admin service IMPL, AutoWire Feign client. At AutoWire, private, iBook Feign client. Now, using this reference, it is enough that you call the abstract methods of the interface. You don't have to provide any implementation. During the runtime, when a request comes in, Feign is responsible for creating the proxy implementation, make an API call to the other REST API. When the response is returned, it is responsible for deserializing and return it back to the service layer. But if you are using RestTemplate, remember the number of lines of code that you have written. You need to call the appropriate method of RestTemplate, frame the proper URL based on whether it is post mapping or put mapping or get mapping or request param or path variable. Then once the data is coming back, you need to retrieve the status, header and body. Here also, of course, we are going to retrieve the header, status and body. But we don't have to frame the URL. Everything is taken care internally by Feign. Now let me call the methods. Book Feign client dot insert one book. The return type is response entity of void. So let me capture it in response entity of void. Response entity equal to. It's enough that we will get the status. No body part. Response entity dot get status code. It is supposed to return the status code as 201 dot value. This is the method. We'll move on to the next one. Update book. This also is returning response entity of void. So let me call the method using book Feign client. Book Feign client dot update book. Okay. Here also let me get the status code. The next one is delete by ID. The return type is response entity of void only. book Feign client dot delete book by id by passing book id. I'll print the status code. Okay, all the three methods which are having the return type as void in our book controller we have completed. Okay, now the next method, get all book Feign client dot get all. The return type is response entity of list of book. A response entity equal to. Now from this we need to get the body part, response entity dot get body. This returns the list of book. List of book, books is equal to. Of course you can write it in one single line also. As in directly you can call response entity dot get body. Now the last one is also similar to this, so I'll copy it. Say I don't have to even frame any URL or anything. This is the last method, get by author, by passing author. This also I'll copy paste and modify. Here it is response entity of book, get by id by passing book id. Here it is returning one single book object, book. That's it. Now our admin service IMPL is ready. What next? We need to call the methods of admin service from admin controller. Let me go to admin controller. I will auto wire admin service, admin service. Guys, now I need to add the methods to call all the methods of admin service. Already I have done it in RestTemplate, so let me just copy the methods alone. So these are the methods: insert book, update book, delete book by id, get all books, get book by id, get book by author. I hope you all know how to create methods in controller. Same thing, I am just doing it. I have added the appropriate REST endpoints also. The method in admin services add book. Okay. So in case of first one, add book, it has to return the status code as 201. In case of update book, it has to return the status code as 202. In case of delete book, the method is delete book. It is not going to show any content, so it is no content. The next one is get all books. The method is get all. And get book by id. The method is get by id. The last one is get by author. I hope you can see my method, get by author. Okay. Now our controller is also ready. This application should run in port number 8082. So let me add the port number here. It's enough that we use application.properties. I'm having only one single property. This is application name. Anyways, we don't need it. Server.port 8082. Okay, all set now. We need to run both applications. These are the two applications. One is Spring Book Catalog REST API. The other one is Spring Admin Dashboard Feign client. Okay. First, I will select Book Catalog REST API. Right click, run as Spring Boot app. The application name is Book Catalog API. It is connected to the database. Now it is up and running in port number 8081. Okay. Let us just check one or two methods. I need to go to book controller. I'll copy this. Already I have Postman open. Localhost colon 8081/book API /v1/books. So this is the list of books that I am having. Good to great, head first Java, HTML for dummies. We can check it from MySQL command line also. First I need to know the database name. Okay, this is the database name. Use this particular database. Show tables. I may be having many tables. Select star from book. Okay. Head first Java, HTML for dummies, head first JSP. Okay, this is running properly from this particular application. Now let us run admin dashboard. Select your application, right click, run as Spring Boot app. See, I have not changed the application name. The application name is this. It is not connected to the database. It is running in port number 8082. Now let us check the REST endpoints of admin controller. This is the URL. But if you notice here, I have added dashboard API/v1, which is missing in our controller. So I am supposed to add at request mapping / dashboard -API /v1. Okay. So this means I need to relaunch my application. Relaunch admin dashboard Feign client. Okay, the application is started. Now I will copy this. Enter. Here I have got the output. First let us check in the console. Maximize console. Let me pull the console up. Let me open admin dashboard Feign client. You will not see any changes in Feign client. Can you see this? There are no changes in the Feign client. But let me open book catalog API. A request comes from admin dashboard to book catalog to retrieve all the books. So we are getting the appropriate SQL query. Select star from book. Now we will try to get the author. Get by author. Get by author Rhonda. Books / author / Rhonda. Enter. It has to return me 2 books. It is returning me 2 books. Let us check the console also. Select star from books where author equal to question mark. Now we will try to add 1 book. So it is still books only. Change it to post. I will copy one particular JSON object. Pull this down. Go to body, raw, JSON. Inside this control V. Now let me change the name. No need of book ID. Book ID will be auto generated. Now click send. Here I am getting the status code as 201 created. Here we are getting the status code as 201 created. Let us check the console also. This is the console of admin dashboard. We gave system.out.println to get the status code 201. And also you should see an insert query in book catalog REST API. Okay. Let us check in the database also whether 1 book is added. Yeah, 1 book is added. So similar to that you can try with update book also. In case of update book you are supposed to provide the ID. I don't have the IDs of books. Let me check it out. We already have autobiography of Yogi. Book ID is 202, comma, book ID : 202. Let me change the price. Go and change from get to put and click send. 202 accepted. Check in the console also. In case of admin dashboard, you will get the status code, and in case of book catalog, you should get update query. So I hope it is clear. This is how you do communication between 2 microservices using Feign client. Already I have shown you how to use RestTemplate. The next level is how to use Feign client to do communication between 2 microservices. My dear guys, remember this is a synchronous communication. If you want to do asynchronous communication, then you need to use WebClient. I will also show you one example of how to use WebClient to do communication between microservices or REST APIs. See you in another video. Thank you.